Welcome to day 163 of 66 and 26, our journey to read through all 66 books of the Bible this year in 2026. We're in 1 Kings chapters 8 to 11, these 4 chapters about King Solomon. You might remember that yesterday when we were finishing up the book of Exodus, we saw the people of Israel build the tabernacle, a tent that was God's dwelling place among them as they went from Egypt to the promised land. And that tabernacle remained the house of the Lord for nearly 500 years until Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem. And we see in chapter 8 of 1 Kings, Solomon dedicate that temple to the Lord, and the Lord's glory fills the temple just as the Lord's glory had filled the tabernacle for all those years. And then we see a lot of success from King Solomon, and even the Queen of Sheba, which would be around the area of present-day Ethiopia, and the queen coming to visit Solomon, being very impressed by his wisdom and by his wealth. And Solomon gives a great deal of that wealth to the Queen of Sheba, and because she is so impressed and continues to visit with Solomon and sing his praises. But then we see the downside of King Solomon, the downfall, because we're told in 1 Kings 11 that Solomon loved his wives. He had hundreds and hundreds of wives, 700 of them by royal birth, and we're told 300 concubines. So royal birth wives would have been those associations with other kings and other nations, that marrying daughters of kings so that there could be an alliance with particular nations and that kind of thing. So Solomon had many, many wives, unbelievable amount of them, in fact. The problem is that we're told in 1 Kings 11 that those wives influenced Solomon's heart, and he was devoted not to the Lord, but to false gods and the idols of his wives. And so he begins to build altars and what are known as high places to other gods, Chemosh and other gods of the Ammonites and the Moabites and so forth. And so Solomon has turned his heart away from the Lord God Almighty to false gods. And then we see the seeds of discontent as Solomon has used slave labor, forced labor to build the temple and to build his royal palace. And so the people who are in the land who are not true Israelites, they rebel against Solomon. And then the tribes of Israel themselves rebel against Solomon. Rehoboam, Solomon's son, will end up being only king over a small portion of Israel, because Jeroboam, one of the leaders of the tribes of Israel, is raised up to be king over Israel, and there will be a division now between a united Israel under Solomon is divided by Jeroboam in the north and Rehoboam in the south. That becomes Israel and Judah, a divided kingdom, and that divided kingdom will remain for the remainder of the time of Israel in the Old Testament, where Israel will ultimately be defeated, and then only the remnant of those 2 tribes, Benjamin and Judah, will be left, and then fall to Babylon later. So we see the seeds of that, the beginning of that division happening here in 1 Kings. So where we see some really great things under Solomon, we see his downfall also, and we're reminded once again that we don't look in hope, we don't look in confidence to any king, any ruler, any human being, because we will ultimately be disappointed. And so we look only to the Lord God and to our salvation in Jesus and Him alone.